Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I am back with Sam for the Lions Raw show, where we will discuss yesterday's fantastic performance and away win at the London Stadium against West Ham. Make sure you smash that like button and hit the subscribe button as well. We're well on the way to 5,000 subscribers. You guys can help us get there. So like, subscribe, and get your comments in on your thoughts of yesterday's performance. Now we're one day after. Obviously, we were buzzing yesterday, but more reflection coming today. And as I said before the show to Sam, I've got to give my props to you, mate. First of all, good evening. But also, I was pretty pessimistic, and people might say, I might say, maybe realistic, but I was nervous, I was excited. And you were like, look, why are you even worried about pre-season? The team know what they're doing. Unai Emery knows what he's doing. Trust in the process, and the performance was brilliant, mate. So I've got to take props to you, man.
Firstly, good evening, everyone, and Rich as well. Before we start, how was your punch up? Did you win? You want to tell the people about your punch up?
No, we don't. No, we don't.
Uh,
It didn't last very long.
For anyone interested, Rich is starting a Villa firm. So as long as you own a Stone Island piece of clothing, you should be all right. Just, DM him, get to him privately. Positivity. I feel like I can't really take any credit for it. I said to you just before we started, blind optimism is the way forward, mate. But if you think about it, it's not really blind optimism, is it? It's kind of like the patience and sort of respect that this team's earned and Unai Emery's earned. Like, I don't have a reason to doubt him when it comes to like the crunch time. Like, it's hard to sort of sit there and say, yeah, let's be honest, we had a pretty bad season, pre-season. Not a bad season. We had an excellent season last season, but we had a pretty bad pre-season. It looked a bit disjointed. People were away. It didn't look great. But I kind of had that sense that Unai Emery was changing the whole team every half. He was clearly experimental. He's clearly trying to do certain things, and I just feel like he's earned a bit of faith from me. So I didn't like what I was watching at times, but I think as a whole, like, I thought it's probably best to just stick with him and see sort of like how we get on. Let the season start before we start judging anyone, and even stuff like you've given me some credit. I'm going to give myself some credit now. Even the John Duran stuff, I said to everyone, I was like, it doesn't matter. Like, he's a baller. He's a really good player. Just it doesn't matter if he's a little bit immature, if he's a bit Balotelli-like, or he does some stupid things. And I said on Twitter, like, we all loved him last year for the chaos that he brings, and then everyone's surprised when come summer, he's still giving it chaos. He's still being, how John Duran always is, but ultimately he comes up with the goods. So I think a really good start from us, and maybe it's a lesson for us all to just maybe hold off a little bit on the criticism this season.
Yeah, I think it's also, I guess, the trepidation of a little bit of unknown as well. Lots of teams going into this season, and ultimately as well, you have to be careful to kind of read too much into very, very early season, albeit we got off to a great start at a team that we don't really do well at, a ground we don't usually do well at as well. So those are all real positives. But yeah, you are going into it a little bit with the unknown, and you're right in what you're saying. Over pre-season, we don't know what Unai Emery is trying to learn from certain game situations. Maybe against Dortmund, he wanted them to be a little bit more, defend a little bit more deeper, because that's what we might be coming up against in the Champions League. Maybe he was looking for certain signs in the game. So maybe in other games he's looking for certain things across different midfield partnerships, combinations, players playing in different positions, asking them to do certain jobs. So we don't know of that. And like I say, a lot of the time you were saying, certain aspects of the performance he wasn't particularly happy with, but there were other aspects he was really happy with. But then when it comes to the game on Saturday, 10 out of the 11 outfield players had already been schooled in the Unai Emery way. West Ham are dealing with a new manager. They had one or two new signings as well to try and integrate. They're trying to play a totally different system. And for that first half, that really showed through. Like the players just knew exactly what they were doing and exploited West Ham time and time again.
Yeah, I mean, most of the first half, yeah.
Yeah, most of it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I think that's it. It's a hard way to play Unai Emery's football, because obviously he brings in players that he knows are technically capable of doing what he wants them to do. Like they've got the calmness, the passing, whatever. But still, like it's hard to play his way of football, especially when you're young, especially when you're, you know, you've not been playing that certain way for a long time. But I think it was, yeah. I think it's the start of things to come. I've seen us written off pretty much everywhere. Everyone said, and this is the thing I don't get, and maybe someone else will disagree with me, but everyone's saying the reason Villa are going to struggle this season is because they've got Champions League. Were we not in Europe last year? Did we not get to the semi-finals of European competition? Am I missing something? And the chances are we're going to be in the Champions League for a far less time than we will be in the Champions League. The Europa Conference League. So it's like, I don't know, like I think people are writing this off prematurely, but as George would always say, it's always the best way, Nick. Stay under the radar. Let everyone think that we're a one-season wonder. Let them think that we've fallen off. I've even seen people questioning Unai Emery now and his side of the club, not Villa fans, obviously.
No. Well, I'll come to you about this weird argument a bit later in terms. I think they're building it up for the Arsenal game, but this weird Arteta Emery.
There's no question. There's no question. Pep first, Emery second.
Yeah, I know.
I'm choking in my tea. It's such a ridiculous idea that Arteta could be a better man. Look at what Unai Emery's won. Fair enough, he's been a manager for longer than Arteta. I'm not saying Arteta won't go on to do great things or isn't even a really good manager, but you can't even begin to compare Unai Emery's catalogue of victories and successes. And not only that, it's a really simple question for me. You put Arteta where Villa were when Unai Emery took over. Are we in the Champions League right now?
Exactly.
No, they'd all be sitting there with a dog called Win or something, which they've never done, and they'd be getting people to rob their phones out of their pockets. So I'm sorry, but Arteta's a really good manager. Arsenal are a brilliant football club. They've got excellent players. They're definitely a better team than us. But if you gave me the choice right now of, you can trade Arteta for Unai Emery, I'd tell you to shove it up your ass.
Yeah.
That's the kindest way I can put it.
That's the kindest way to put it. Yeah. Yeah, I know you bang on. I guess in some ways the standard of I think people are just making the assumption that the standard of the opposition will obviously be higher. The effort has to go into those games is higher, and the test case of Newcastle last season, they're trying to make that assumption as well and bring that into focus. But I think we're a different proposition. We've got a different manager in terms of European competition. We had the Conference League last season. We had to deal with Thursday and Sunday games that we did very well with last season. So I don't see any reason why we can't perform well in the Champions League. Obviously, we'll see who we get in the draw, which will be very, very interesting. So
we know we're going to get two top teams. We know we're going to get every tier really. So we know there's not going to be any surprises. And I think Arsenal fans are a little bit strange, if I'm being honest. I find them very defensive. Like, and I'll say this, I'll caveat this. My wife is an Arsenal fan to a certain extent, but obviously my brother-in-law, is a massive Arsenal fan. And some of the arguments that we have, I don't understand how we can even be having the discussion. For example, I always laugh at him that they sold us Emi Martinez for 15 million quid or whatever they did. I laugh because after that, they've gone through Ramsdale and Raya. And Emi Martinez is very clearly and there's no argument about it.
The lad who's gone to Fulham now as well. What's his name?
Leno.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, if someone questioned me if I'm wrong, I'm probably not the right audience, but Emi Martinez is very clearly the best number one in the world, right? He's the best goalkeeper in the world. But they still reckon that Ramsdale's better than, not even Raya. Ramsdale can't even get in their first team. He still reckons that Ramsdale's better than Emi Martinez. And I think Arsenal fans, they've got this little thing because Unai Emery used to be their manager. Emi Martinez used to be their goalie. They went in for Dougie quite a few times. Watkins is obviously he's undone them last season, but he's an Arsenal fan. I think Arsenal would have won the league, but for Villa last year. That's my honest opinion. If it wasn't for Villa, I think Arsenal would have won the league. So it's no surprise that they've got a little bit of a rivalry forming with us and they're defending Arteta. But I mean, really bollocks to them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm absolutely fine with it. I don't think any Villa fan gives a shit about Arsenal, really.
No. It's just that conversation, like you say, it's just a ridiculous conversation. Shout out to Ken, as always, supporting the channel with his £2 super chat, mate. Absolute legend. Thank you very, very much. Don't forget, guys, we've got over 200 watching on X and on YouTube. So please, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button and hit the subscribe button as well if you're new to the channel. And if you're on X as well, follow us at Villa Park Pod and follow Sam at SamWise1071. So let's talk about players. I mean, couldn't have got off to a better start, and someone couldn't have got off to a better debut than Amadou Onana. I said in the match preview I did with George, I was like, I've got a feeling that he would have been challenged to get more goals. We would have set him up on set pieces to be the main man. And within 4 minutes, we've done exactly that. And he scored a goal. I mean, he only got 2, I think, in the Premier League for Everton last season, albeit he probably had a different role. He's already got 50% of that total already after his first game. And he was just imperious. I mean, I don't think you could have asked for a better debut, to be honest.
No, and I think he's in his whole Everton career, I think he got 4 goals in something like 80 odd games. So I wasn't expecting anything prolific from him. What I was hoping is that he'd shore us up defensively. And we're not really a type of like ball in the box kind of, Austin McPhee wouldn't get paid very well if all he did was
exactly.
Post.
What's your plan? What's your plan, Austin? Well, I just thought we'd just throw it in the box, to be honest.
Near post.
Yeah.
But and we've had tall players in the past, like Pau Torres is quite tall. I know he got one against Spurs last year. Tyrone Mings never been really prolific from corners, but you've got this guy who's 22 years old, athletic as anything, 6'5", and it's a really useful string to add to your bow to be able to score directly from, or just score from corners, score from set pieces. Because, and I think what it bodes well for going forward, because I think we were a little bit susceptible to set pieces last year. Like we used to concede, we would concede from set pieces. So I think it was that the goal itself was really impressive because he got up so high. He actually had to head it down because he was like, if he'd have headed it straight, it would have been over the bar. He jumped that high. And yeah, I mean, he was imperious. His ball retention was brilliant. He reminded me of, I don't know why, but I've seen loads of clips recently of Sergio Busquets on Twitter, just floating around, just like highlight reels of Busquets. And he really reminds me of him because he just holds the ball so calmly. He doesn't lose it. And someone's just asked for Onana's stats, but I'll tell you what they were. They were 100% in everything, and he was first.
I'm just looking at them here. So, accurate passes, 30 out of 31 passes, 97%. Obviously, got a goal. Is his shot accuracy 1 out of 1? Obviously, successful dribbles 1 out of 1, 100%. Accurate long balls 2 out of 2, 100%.
Yeah.
His clearances, he did 3. Headed clearances, he did 3. Defensive actions, 9. Ball recovery, 6. Interceptions, 2. He won 10 duels. He won 7 out of 9 ground duels. I mean, he's phenomenal.
He's calm on the ball without being too casual.
Yes.
He doesn't panic. He holds onto the ball. He finds himself space. But at no point was I watching him play and thinking like, mate, move it around or do something like that. He didn't worry me because he was slow and calm with it, but he always seemed in control, and it wasn't casual, lazy passing. It was a really phenomenal performance. I think defensively, obviously getting his goal, getting a goal that early as well, sort of changed the complexion of the game. 4 minutes in, West Ham already on the back foot, and on another day, maybe we would have pressed on and gotten some more after that because we had loads of chances and we were sort of dominating for the first 35 minutes. So I think he's brilliant. I wasn't expecting that from him so soon, if I'm being honest.
No, I wasn't. I knew he was going to be good, and he's set the bar high now with that performance.
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
I'm sure he'll be absolutely buzzing. But yeah, I mean, I just didn't. And a few comments coming in, Kevin said that Onana is so much more than a beast. He's skillful as well.
Yeah, I mean,
Willie says, "Evening guys, great show as usual. The thing with Onana is under Emery he will only get better." Gaz says he's the type of player that he's wanted for decades, and he just feels like, again, it's early days, but he feels like it's a player that we have been crying out for, and it's almost like Emery was the right man at the right time when we were the right club. And it kind of feels a little bit, I know I'm probably getting carried away here, but it feels a little bit like we're the right club at the right time, and the right manager is here for Amadou Onana.
do you know what? I will say this about Onana. He is very, very intelligent. Like,
He is, yeah,
not just
5 languages.
not
Yeah.
just his football, not just his languages, but
Yeah.
he is playing the Villa fans like a fiddle.
Yeah,
He's got us in the palm of his hand.
he's doing all this stuff. Yeah.
He's gone to the club and he's done the club end and he's done all that. And they just see him and he's just wrapping us around his little finger. Like, he's got us at least for the next 6 months now, no matter what he does. And I quite like that intelligence, because if he's doing that, it's because he knows what it means. And he knows that, like, for example, if he's had a bad game or 2 bad games, he's going to think, like, he's going to be smart enough to think, well, look, I need to improve. I need to do X, Y, and Z. And I'm really impressed by him, like, all around, on the pitch, off the pitch. And I'll be honest, like, call myself out, because we gave me some credit when we were talking about flop of the season in our predictions. I didn't go for him. I think I went for Pau Torres, but I said I was close to going for him because there's going to be such high expectations on him, and I thought it would be hard to match that. But he's 1 for 1. You can't do much better than that. He can only play the games that he's played, and so far he's really sort of like put himself in front of the Villa fans in a great light, and I think everyone loves him already. If I'm being honest,
Absolutely.
Our mate, not Andre, Amadou, which I don't think anyone's going to make that mistake again. So no, brilliant, well played to him.
He was top performance. Massive shout out to Sharik. £2 super chat. He says, knew it was in the bag this week. Yeah, mate. Enjoy, lads. Thank you for your support, and thanks for your super chat as well, mate. Thank you for watching. Just in terms of the actual first half, you mentioned 35 minutes where we did create quite a few chances, looked very threatening. I thought we were really good in that, what they call the transition, in terms of winning the ball. Tielemans or Onana would win the ball, then we would really break quickly, and Morgan Rogers in particular just eats up the ground running with the ball, and it's really good, the decisions that he tends to make, whether he shoots or whether he passes. But those chances missed, I think, obviously Bailey missed one, Rogers missed one, McGinn missed one. Were you kind of thinking, this is really going to bite us in the backside here if we don't put away one of these chances?
Yeah, I mean, there's always a risk. 1-0 was never a great thing. But then again, last season, 2-0 wasn't great for us either, because we kept losing from a 2-0 lead. You always see those chances, and you think as well, just for like confidence, and it would have been great to get. I mean, the win that we got was brilliant. Everyone's buzzing from it because it was so hard fought, and we scored quite late on. But it would have been great to push on and get like a really big win, maybe finish the first week atop a league or something like that. I don't know. Like, it's never really enough for us, is it? Obviously, I'm more than happy with what we did, but the misses were a bit strange, actually. Like, Bailey goes around the keeper, he sits the guy down, and he obviously, it was really close, so he hits the post, like just off the edge of the post. But I was sure he was just, as soon as the guy went down, I thought he was just going to take a touch and then put it in, because there was no one else. Like, he was an open goal at that point. But I think he was worried about the players that were tracking back, and he sort of obviously hit the post and didn't really go well for him. And there were a couple of other misses. I think Morgan Rogers had one where he
didn't quite catch the shot properly.
It was really soft. There was no pressure. I think it was just, you know what they call it? They I was in TalkSport today, and they were like, you can see a bit of ring rust. From some players on the first day of the season, and there were misses all around all the grounds. Where, they'd be dead set. I wouldn't be concerned. But I think what was more impressive is that we were creating that number of chances against A West Ham team, by the way, who I thought generally were very good, actually. I think we made them look worse than they actually are in some areas. I'm sure we'll get on to Matty Cash at some point. But in general, I think that we up until that 35 minutes, we controlled the game really well, and we just looked miles ahead of them. We looked like such a better outfit than they did.
Yeah, 100%. Like you say, it would have really capped off that first half had we got that second goal. And Si makes a good point. He did message me this early. He said 85 seconds in, McGinn got booted by Kudus. And I've watched it back, and I think, I don't see why they didn't look back at that, especially when you take into account the penalty that was given for West Ham, which inevitably got them back into the game. I mean, what were your thoughts on that? I guess that first of all, the McGinn, there wasn't really no one claimed for it, no one really did anything, I don't think. And then obviously the penalty that was given.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so I'll do 3 points here. I'll do McGinn, I'll do general referees, VAR approach, and the penalty that went the other way. The McGinn one I thought was a good shout for a pen. It seemed like he got him. McGinn did. I think he forced himself to ground. I don't think that the challenge was enough to send him down, but he got kicked, and I think the problem is it was so early on in the game.
Yeah.
The refs, like, first game of the season, 80 seconds in, am I going to be that guy to give a pen? I think the refs are. They've had a lot of criticism last year about overly depending on VAR, which, for the record, I never had an issue with, because at least with VAR, even if it's a toe or if it's something like that, more often than not, you're getting the right decisions. So I've never really had an issue with VAR, but I know some people think it slows down the game too much and it kills the authenticity of the game. But I always think, since I've been watching football, I've always found refs to be a bit crap. I don't think they I don't know. I feel like they're always getting the decisions wrong or letting stuff go that they shouldn't do, or like if they make a bad decision, they'll make another bad decision to even it out, and I don't really like it. So I think that it's very clear the refs are going to try and depend on VAR less than they did last year. I think for Villa, that's not going to be a great thing, because more often than not, we were on the right side of VAR last year, especially with stuff like offsides and things like that. So hopefully that doesn't change too much. And with regards to the Matty Cash pen, it's a penalty. It just is. He does get the ball. We've all seen it. But he absolutely goes through Souček. He has both of his legs in his scissor. He turns his whole body. Souček is genuinely brought down by Matty Cash. Whether you get a graze on the ball or not, it's an absolutely ridiculous challenge. And it's 100% a penalty. If you're being objective, by the way, if that was the other side and someone's taking down Bailey like that, you are screaming your head off for that. There's no way you're saying, he grazed the ball with his studs, therefore it's not a penalty. You'll call it, it's just subjective. It's who's your team. But if we're being like honest, I think it was a penalty. And I think Matty Cash was trying to foul him before that. He was trying to grab his shirt, and Matty Cash really struggled against West Ham. And I think that showed. I think it was a penalty. What do you think, Rich? Am I wrong here?
Mate, I couldn't. In the ground, it's very difficult to kind of judge it either way. You're just watching from a distance, and it just looked like a coming together. But as soon as the ref gives it, me and Kev were like, "Yeah, he's definitely not. That's definitely not being overturned. There's no way." If the referee hadn't have given it, I don't think VAR would have told him to give it. But because he's given the penalty, they're not going to turn around and say it's not. I think the wording that the PGMOL or whatever, the kind of the fan interaction side of the referees had said something about he even though he did play the ball, his intent wasn't to play the ball or something, which seemed a little bit vague to me.
Do you know what's funny? I agree with the decision.
Lots of comments saying that.
Yeah, no, I know.
They don't believe.
I'm going to say
Gaz actually agrees with you. So that's something when you and him used to go to town over Ollie Watkins. But yeah, most people didn't believe it was.
Yeah, no, I get it, and we're not objective. Like, let's be honest, we're not objective. I'm trying to be more objective. At the time,
maybe he didn't agree with you. I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough. But the thing is, I agreed with the decision that it was a penalty, but I disagreed with the explanation that they gave.
Yeah,
They said
yeah.
even though Matty Cash got a touch on it, he didn't intend to. That's why it was a penalty. I don't think that's true. I think it's very clear that he's stretching to get the ball. But for example, if you get the ball and then absolutely go through someone or hack them down or cut them down, I just saw a comment there that says, "Oh, it doesn't matter what happens after you get the ball, as long as you get the ball." That is just absolutely not true.
Fair enough, guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was.
The
It was
explanation.
the suggestion that it doesn't matter if you what happens after you get the ball is not true. Like he got fine, he got a little graze on the ball, but the problem is he's completely cleaned Souček out, and I think it was just a silly challenge because Souček's touch isn't really, the touch he was going to take wasn't really taking him anywhere. I think he could have stood him up, but I think Matty Cash was conscious that he was really struggling, again, especially against Kudus. I think Kudus had him on toast pretty much all game.
Again, I didn't really notice that in the game. If I'm being brutally honest, like I didn't see West Ham being anything of a threat at all throughout the probably 87, 88 minutes. The only time I thought they were slightly threatening, and this is not a criticism of him at all, but I thought when Nedeljkovic came on for Cash, I think the occasion maybe overawed him a little bit, and Somerville really got at him. And physically, I think Nedeljkovic kind of saw what the Premier League was about. It was actually interesting to see the physical profile of Morgan Rogers and how he could body players out of the way. And then Nedeljkovic and Philogene was slightly weaker in terms of that. It's not their fault, but that's when I thought that West Ham really did kind of get at us. I didn't notice Kudus as much, but that's me in the ground. I couldn't see.
Yeah, I think maybe watching it on TV, I got a more holistic view of it.
Yeah.
But Kudus was what was really interesting. Kudus had a brilliant game. Like I think a lot of people talk about his end product. I think more often than not, he did. I think he did. He was creative in terms of like just putting it into a good area, maybe less direct stuff. But I think what was really interesting was West Ham were targeting that side. West Ham were targeting our right back on our right side, kept getting the ball to Kudus, and I think the big mistake they made is that when Luca Dean came off and Somerville came on, they moved Kudus to the other side, to Matsson's side, and Maatsen actually had a far better run at Kudus than I think Matty Cash did. So
well, Maatsen just went on the absolute offensive, didn't he? And that was what got us moving, and we'll go on to that in a second. I do just want to shout out our sponsors because Football Prizes are back, and they've got an excellent prize with a Esri Konsa signed and custom LED framed Aston Villa shirt. So to get your ticket, all you need to do is click on the link, and it's $3.95 for your ticket, and the draw is on Thursday, the 29th of August at 7:30. And there's only 299 tickets in the draw. So you've got an excellent chance of winning. And there's also 15 instant prizes as well that you have a chance of winning when you purchase a ticket. And as part of those instant prizes are frame shirts with Ollie Watkins and Jacob Ramsey. So a fantastic prize. You've got till Thursday, 29th of August. It's footballprizes.co.uk. Click on the Konsa link for your chance to get your ticket and for your chance to win. So, yeah, going into that second half, obviously we went in 1-1 at half-time after Paqueta puts the penalty away very well. I think West Ham maybe...
penalty, wasn't it?
It was a very cheeky penalty.
Naughty penalty. I didn't like it. I thought it was disrespectful.
It was. Sent him the wrong way and everything. But, he is a good player. But, again, I didn't think he was that effective other than putting that penalty away. But, as I say, second half, I think West Ham kind of huffed and puffed right at the start of the second half. But you mentioned Ian Maatsen, Jacob Ramsey, the man himself, John Duran, who I'm sure we'll talk a lot about in a second. But being able to make those 3 substitutions as well as a couple of others later on in the game shows that quality that we've got. I mean, you just mentioned Maatsen there. He just went on the offensive, and you could see the pace that he's got. You could see the technical ability that he's got. Ramsey looked to be really sharp. And just being able to, before we talk about the goal, just being able to have those options off the bench to make those changes to bring that quality on is a massive tool that Emery's got in his arsenal now.
Yeah, and that's what we were going for. Clearly, like that's the strategy. I think Monchi said it in an interview recently. The idea is to be able to make 5 subs and not lower the quality of the team, which definitely didn't happen on Saturday. Yeah, I think it's good for 2 reasons. Because one, obviously, you can bring all this quality off the bench. Like that's useful in itself. But the other thing is the players that are playing as well. They're under pressure now because they know, like when Kamara's back, Onana knows that if we're playing the same system that we played the other day, which I quite like, they're not both going to be on. We won't. There'll be games where we don't really need 2 defensive-minded midfielders. And who do you drop in terms of like McGinn and Tielemans? Because we'll get onto Tielemans for sure, but he was superb. He was absolutely sensational at the weekend. So there's going to be competition. Morgan Rogers and Jacob Ramsey, they're going to push each other. Matson and Digne, they're going to push each other. Philogene, Duran and Ollie Watkins, they're going to push each other. Like the idea is competition. Have competition in as many places. Matty Cash and Costa, I'm not going to try and say his last name yet. I will get there at some point during the season. Apart from Emi Martinez, is there any player that doesn't, and maybe the centre backs, is there any player that doesn't have competition in this team? And that's what you want, really, isn't it? You want players who are being pushed every game and not nervous to think they're going to lose their place, but they know that if they don't perform, then there's someone else there waiting to take their place, and that's how you breed success. That's what Man City do. That's what Man United did in the days of old. Like it's about competition.
Yeah, 100%. And Richard with the comment now, what a change, Matson, Duran and Ramsey. So let's talk about it. And he actually threatened just before he scored, John Duran, with an opportunity that he really good movement, got the ball in that kind of left-hand channel, opened his body up, but just went for that near post finish rather than maybe squaring it or putting it in the other corner. That was a sign of things to come, though. And I was just so impressed. And I've probably watched the goal about 5 or 6 times now. It almost just happened like a flash in the stadium. It was like we were just casually knocking the ball around across the back, and then it goes to Torres, and he sees Martin go, plays that ball over the top, and then it's just one touch, bang, and one touch finish. And yeah, cue the scenes in the away end, but just fantastic goal, fantastic movement, Sam.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the big things we talked about. Power was really good yesterday. Actually, I think duels wise, I think he was up there with Ezri Konsa. I think both of them won almost all their duels, if not all of them. But that's the real thing that you get from Pau Torres, is that ability to start off an attack from nowhere. And I think in that lull, between like maybe 35 minutes and the 60th minute, when West Ham, I would say, were on top, and we were looking a little bit shaky. The problem was when we had the ball, no one was really like going forward. It was a bit laboured. No one was moving the ball quickly. It was just everything kind of came to a standstill. We weren't really moving the ball. But then this one ball from Pau Torres over the top to Matson. The touch from Matson beggars belief. Like I told you just before this podcast, I've been playing football, and I've been thinking about that touch like since it happened, and I tried to just replicate it, just like a little soft touch in front of it. It's so hard. Like
running at full speed on the volley.
How far the ball's come as well.
Yeah.
Over your shoulder, just to have that awareness as well, to see Ramsey and think, I can just think this in a little. And Jacob Ramsey does exactly what John Duran should have done a few minutes earlier and squared the ball to... it was the opposite way, that Duran should have squared the ball to Ramsey, and this time Ramsey had the presence of mind to square it to Duran. And it's just one of those really hard left-footed finish. And I really like the fact that Duran's left-footed as well. It's just class. It's just one of those goals. It doesn't need to be complicated. Not every goal needs to be like Arsenal 2004 tiki-taka, whack it in, like play it, walk into the net. It's just smart football. Everyone's moving, pressing together as a front line, loads of options, a bit of quality, and a bit of awareness, and that's it. Sometimes football doesn't need to be as difficult as we make it out. Not everything needs like an Austin McPhee specialized coach for passing the ball 5 yards. Sometimes it's instinctive old school football that works quite well, and that's what it was. It was a beautiful goal and one worthy of winning any match, I reckon. I was
Yeah,
really like it.
100%, mate. And yeah, and it was written in the stars, wasn't it, that that man would score? And obviously, he did his celebration, saying he's
He should have done
yeah,
that, just
all
to
the Villa
wind
fans are
everyone
doing
up.
that.
That's what...
All the Villa fans are doing that. But yeah, it just was written in the stars that that would happen. I think pretty much every Villa fan was saying he's going to come on and he's going to score the winner. And I think every West Ham fan was probably saying the same as well as soon as they saw his number come up on the board. But what do you think that lots of people in the comments is kind of saying he's staying now? And I think Emery was pretty coy about it at the end of the game. But I think I can't see anything. I can't see him moving now, unless it's a crazy bid that comes in and we can't turn it down. I think the decision's made now that this is what we're going with. What I don't know what your thoughts are.
I think it'll have to be a £50 million bid, there or thereabouts. I would argue that I can't think of, and if anyone can think of one, then I'm happy to be wrong on this. I just can't think of anyone. A 20-year-old striker who can make as much of an impact as Duran, not just off the bench, but in other games, of his quality and what he looks like he's got, the attributes that he's got: big, quick, strong, wonder shot, like so much power he gets on the ball, ridiculous. Like, I just can't think of a good replacement. Even if you give us 50 million quid, can you think of someone who, even at 50 million, would be happy to come in and sit behind Ollie Watkins? And there's a debate there. I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to start bashing Ollie Watkins or anything like that. But we have to be prepared, as any football team should. But if you've got a player like Duran who's just on smoking hot form, you need to integrate in one way or another. You can't leave a dead cert contribution to the game on the bench, whether that's playing with Ollie Watkins or playing instead of Ollie Watkins. I think I just can't see a better option than Duran. I really like him. I think he's got bags of quality. I think he could be a really special player. And I'm not saying this in the aftermath of the West Ham game. I'm saying this. I said it before when we were doing our season predictions, and everyone was annoyed that he did the hammer sign and whatever. And I just said I'd like him to stay because I see that quality in him. And obviously with Archer gone now, we've only got two strikers at the club. Again, I mean, people say Morgan Rogers, but I don't think he's great.
No,
So,
he look at the ability that he shows picking up the ball in slightly deeper areas. He wouldn't be the same in that position up front. But no, I do agree. I think there's if clubs are willing to part with £35 million for a 21-year-old, then he's got to have something about him. That's the first thing that you've got to say. So yeah, and then the next thing you've got to say is, if you do sell him, are you going to be able to bring someone in who is better quality? Now, Emery kind of talked about him. He just wants him to show that little bit of patience. He's a young lad. He's hungry. He's ambitious. He's all that. Just wants to show a little bit of patience, and the rewards will come. And I'm sure that maybe something like that, maybe a hope that a little trigger has gone off in his mind to think, yes, I understand now. I kind of need to maybe level myself out just that little bit. I don't need to lower my ambitions. I don't need to lower my personality. It's just understanding that this is part of the team, and then what will happen is those other things will start coming. Those chances to play will come more and more and more for him. And like you said, it could be a situation where Ollie Watkins does take a little bit of time to get himself moving into the season. We've obviously got Champions League, we've got Premier League, we've got Carabao Cup. We've got all these games coming up thick and fast. And being able to operate with John Duran is a huge weapon for us.
Can I play devil's advocate here and ask you a question?
I know what you're going to say.
I'm not sure. I'd be interested if you're thinking of the same thing as me, but I'm going to play devil's advocate here and ask you a question. What does patience look like to you? Like, what do you think is Duran's route to where he wants to be? Because everyone keeps saying, and Emery keeps saying patience, but what does that mean?
I think it's probably just I don't think he wants to temper his ambition. I just think he wants him to maybe not make noises outside of the club, or to that might not be him. That could be his agent kind of talking him into it. But I think he just means that really, and I think he means that the trappings of a professional, of he's obviously got the ability, and I think he's trying to just tell him that his chance will come. He's a young man. He's only 21 years old. His chance will come. We've talked all around this about him, adapting to English football and all that kind of stuff, right? I just think that's what he's trying to
he's
tell him.
pretty well adapted now, and I'm going to continue this devil's advocate. It's like a line of questioning. So his chance will come.
I don't have any other explanation than that. Unai Emery said it. Many managers say it. It's about, I guess, it's just about the balance of the squad and the balance of the team. And
I've been seeing this a lot, though. Everyone's saying, "Oh, he needs to be patient. So his chance will come. Fine. I'm just playing devil's advocate. His chance will come, but like when? What has to happen for Duran to get a chance? Because in my mind, is there any chance of him starting above Ollie Watkins in any scenario? I think the answer is probably no. Ollie Watkins has got, obviously after the season he had last season, he can play crap for 10, 15 games. He's not going to get played. So
with him,
fine, and maybe with him, but then you're dropping out a player that maybe, who do you drop out, like a Rodgers or someone else? So like, if I was Duran and I'm feeling disgruntled, I'm like, well, look, I'm clearly making an impact. I've scored more goals off the bench than anyone else in the league last year, and even in stuff like Carabao Cup games, like his starts last year were pretty poor. He didn't have many at all, and we played loads.
I guess for him, it's how many games would be enough for him to say, okay, that satisfies my ambition.
I think it's like, even in a game, maybe it's like he comes on. Last season, he came on for, I don't know, 15 minutes at the end of the game, maybe 20 minutes, or even less, maybe 10 minutes, and he still was making an impact. Like, if you give him 30 minutes, like you did against Liverpool, or like a little bit longer than that, he'll come on and he does bits like that. I'm playing devil's advocate. I kind of understand where he's coming from, and I don't want to treat him too harshly, because it's not like he's playing every game and he's begging for a move because he wants to move on to something big and better and he wants more money. And I think he's definitely immature, and he definitely played his cards wrong here, by the way. But I can understand what he's saying with, like, I think I might be ready to give it a serious go.
Oh yeah, I don't mind it.
I do get it.
I wouldn't mind if he was knocking on the manager's door and then Unai Emery was saying, I've got John Duran banging on my door every week, saying that I need to play. I wouldn't mind if it was that. Like, he should be banging on the manager's door, and he should be performing in training. He should be saying, I want to start. I'm better than Ollie Watkins. He should be saying that. I guess from Emery's perspective is he doesn't want to have to answer the questions because he's been blindsided because John Duran's been saying it outside of the club. I think that's 100%. Probably what he means.
I'm not questioning, like, his conduct was awful, like the Hammers thing, and the petulant stuff, like deleting your Instagram photos. I guess for us that doesn't really make a big deal of difference, but for like kids nowadays and people watching it, like deleting all the stuff off Instagram, like, oh my god, how could he do that? Like, it's such a big thing. But I just kind of get it. I kind of understand. I feel like it's not that he deserves more of a chance, because Ollie Watkins was so good last year, so his numbers don't lie. He's crazy. But in my mind, if I was Duran, I just think, even if Watkins isn't playing well, I don't think I get a chance. I think he still starts him every game regardless, because I think Ollie Watkins is bordering on undroppable, right? So if I'm Duran, I'm like, well, I'm never going to get a chance if Ollie Watkins, unless he's injured, which he never is. When am I going to get a chance to start 4, 5, 6 games in a row and play 90 minutes for the whole? Like, I think that's where he wants to be. And because he gets these such short periods of time, he comes on and he does things like, we talk about that pass to Jacob Ramsey, that where he could have squared it. And I know, like Gaz said earlier, I don't want my striker squaring a one-on-one. Watch it back, mate. Literally, Jacob Ramsey is there. It's an open goal. It's the right thing to do, just to cut it back every now and then. But if I'm Duran, I just think I don't think I'm getting a first team opportunity, like, for a sustained period of time. Or maybe I'll start the odd game here and there, but it's hard to play at your best when you're playing football so infrequently.
Definitely. Yeah, I do agree with that. I do. And it is frustrating No one's saying it isn't. At the end of the day, only 11 players can play, and I think again, in a roundabout way, Emery's saying like if you do show that bit of humility, that bit of patience, as he called it, I think he does then trust him more to give him 20 minutes, half an hour more regularly. I can't. I don't know Emery's thought
I think he
process,
thinks
but
he's better than 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
yeah. But there may have been times where Emery could have brought him on, but just didn't want to because he didn't want to reward the bad behaviour, so to speak. Do you know what I mean?
I think George said it.
A bit of stubbornness in there in Unai Emery that's like, I know we probably could do with you off the bench here, but you've done wrong, and I'm not gonna bring you on.
Yeah, I think George said it like really well. He's like, we're a fickle bunch. Everyone's livid at him. Score 1 goal, and then like half the people love him. Score 2 goals, everyone's back on side. You know?
Yeah.
What I mean?
Oh mate, if he scores against Arsenal on Saturday, it'll be. We'll be getting a Duran statue outside of the whole end.
A brand new song for him, and everyone doing they were singing a song. What were they singing against West Ham? We stayed because you're shit.
Yeah.
Along them lines. And that's the thing. I reckon he'll mend his bridges with the fellow fans. He did the apology and said I'm staying and this and that. Like for me, I think he's a good player, and I think he can really like impact the game. So and impact our season.
He definitely showed why West Ham.
He did, yeah.
Won him yesterday, so
yeah, 100%.
They might be coming in with a bigger bid. You never know.
Honestly, do you know what I mean? But it'll be an interesting one. I don't know about you. I'll be glad when the transfer window's done. Actually,
oh, me too. I mean,
I'm done with it.
I did want to get
much about Villa recently.
No, we haven't. I mean, and I think Emery's been really good about it. He's actually been quite upfront. So yeah. I'll be interested in your comments because he's obviously said, Alex Moreno looks like he's going to be the next kind of one out the door because he's got too many left backs. He's actually said that, which I think is good. He's talked about Diego Carlos being here for the moment, but again, they don't know what's going to happen. So it does look like those 2 players are the ones most likely to go. Dendoncker, not part of the squad, so he's probably looking at a move as well. So I think Emery's been pretty open. I guess with all clubs, they're always quite quiet about their incomings, but he hasn't made a secret of wanting to strengthen that defensive area and maybe another option up further forward. So,
what would you make of his comments about Luca Dean? Emery.
What did he say about Luca Dean?
So when he was talking about Alex Moreno going, he said something along the lines of, it was our thoughts that maybe Luca Dean would go because we had some interest in him, but he said he didn't go because he didn't want to. He didn't say we wanted to keep him. He said Luca Dean didn't want to go. Yeah, and I was like, I don't know what that means. I don't know. That's a little bit of a backhanded, like we wanted to get rid of him, but he didn't want to go. And you know what I mean?
Was it Fenerbahce that came in for him?
Yeah, and then he went on Twitter and he was
yeah. Well, he's on a good package at Villa. There's no doubt about it. So there's probably business reasons why Villa were prepared to let him go, but
I think he genuinely
personal reasons why Luca Dean wants to stay. But I like him. I like him.
I thought he was brilliant. And do you know what? I was really surprised how much I enjoyed Maatsen when he came on because I've been a big fan of Luca Dean. I really like what he does, but Maatsen kind of, I don't know if it was just because it was towards the end of the game and Luca Dean was a bit tired, but Maatsen did seem like a bit of an upgrade when he came on, didn't he? I don't know.
He was excellent. He was excellent.
So good,
it's a great combination to have because you can either start with the solidity and really professional sort of decision making of a Luca Dean and experience, and then bring an Ian Maatsen on with the pace and the technical ability and just the no fear attitude that he's got. So you can start with that and then bring Luca Dean on later on in the game to shore it up. So you've got a really good combination there, which is really good.
You're gonna love this, Rich. You ready? 10:22 p.m. Would you have Jack Grealish back?
Get one every episode.
Gary hates with Jack would be perfect.
Gary's doing that on purpose. I know Gary's doing that on purpose. I know he is.
I love that.
But yeah,
would you have him back? I'm just-
Oh, please, I can't go. We can't go.
I don't think you've ever answered the question. I don't know. Maybe that's why people keep asking, because you just always say nah. I don't want to answer it.
The ship has sailed. The ship has
Yeah,
sailed.
fair enough.
It has. Everyone smash the like button. I've got 400 people watching us, which is just incredible at nearly 10:30 at night. So thank you so much for your support. Please do hit the like button if you haven't already on YouTube, and do subscribe to the channel. Help us on the road to 5,000. Keep your comments flowing in as well. Getting so many great comments as well. Try and read as many as I can out. So yeah, just rounding up the performance. I know you wanted to mention a couple of other players as well, but just in general, I mean, fantastic away day, great performance from the team, and as I said before, a ground that we haven't done very well at, the London Stadium, and we've obviously not beaten West Ham for I don't know how many years away from. I think AVFC Stato
Mm.
all of the
Since
results
Upton
there for
Park,
the
isn't
last
it?
probably 10, 12 years. So just fantastic. Obviously, Unai Emery loves breaking these records.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. Like getting rid of the hoodoos for Villa fans, because we always have things where we're like, well, this is destined to happen. I thought, or a first round exit in the FA Cup, or losing at Old Trafford, or anything else. All these things all these little superstitious things that he's got off our back, and it's just another one down. I think this is just. There's not much. I don't know. I don't know. They've run out of superlatives for Unai Emery.
I know, mate.
I
It's
just
it's
love
just
him.
crazy. Yeah.
He's just absolutely like. There's no one in the world, and I genuinely mean this. There's no one in the world I would rather have managing my football club than Unai Emery, and that's really really nice to say. There's no one else in the world that I can think of right now, because there are more high profile managers, maybe like the Pep Guardiolas and the Carlo Ancelotti's and whatever, but I don't think any of them do what Unai Emery has done with Villa. I genuinely mean that. I don't. Maybe there is someone, obviously, who can, but no one else has done it before, so it's not ridiculous to say that. But Champions League football, a lot of respect now. I was watching these tier lists of where final table predictions on YouTube and stuff, and everyone's got us like in the top 7. We're still not one of the big boys, apparently. According to Talksport, they said wins for the big boys yesterday. Man United, Chelsea, not Chelsea, whoever it was, Liverpool, Arsenal, and Newcastle. But they didn't mention Villa, so I was like, okay, fine. But yeah, I don't know. I just think it's just great to get rid of all of these superstitious things. And I go into every game. Like I genuinely went into that West Ham game thinking we can win this, West Ham away or not. First game of the season, haven't won the first game of the season since 2020. All of this stuff it kind of seems irrelevant now. It feels like a fresh start. It feels like nothing, no previous stats matter, no previous you can't refer back to it. We're just a different animal now.
A totally different team. As I said, some of the pre-season games left me feeling a little bit apprehensive about the season, but I think even the season prediction show, and I think a couple of shows that we did during the preseason, I think after probably one or two victories, where I was saying it's just so good going into a season, knowing that you're going to win these games, knowing that you're going to win upwards of 15, 16, 17, 18 games a season. And then it's about how do you get on against the Newcastles, or even the Arsenals who we've got this week, the Man Cities, the Liverpools, because we know we can beat them. It's about how many wins we can get against them to get into the third in the league, or heaven forbid, second in the league.
Did you not have the best record against the top 6 last year?
Exactly, and that's it, isn't it? That's it. And again, I don't want to get carried away with regards to after the first game, but it is we know that when teams come up against Villa, the teams that are kind of mid-table or below, they know that they have to be at their 100% best to get anything out of that game. And then we know that we've got so many weapons in our team where we can create chances, where we can score goals. We've got substitutes that we can bring off the bench, and that is such a great position to be in as a club.
I don't even think we're getting carried away after the first game. We're making an informed decision on 18 months, coming up to 2 years of Unai Emery. Like, it's not about this thing. We're not saying we're going to do anything. We're not saying we're going to finish top four or we're going to win the league. We're going to do. All we're saying is that there's no better manager to be in place. There's no better group of players because we know they can do it. There's just a bunch of stuff. Well, yeah, I just said.
Lewis is on it.
We're not saying we're going to win the league. And then,
he's been on it
it's
right
just a wind-up feeling. Yeah, I just feel like it's not a 3 points us get our heads getting big. I think it's genuine, like, considered opinion and considered thought. I just think we've got so much in terms of quality. And the thing I found strangest about preseason was how much it didn't click. And I was like, this doesn't make sense because there's a lot of really, really good players. I wouldn't be surprised if when Barkley makes his his first appearance, he comes on and does something special. And
absolutely, yeah.
I think it's just going to get better, and I genuinely expect Arsenal at home. I expect to get at least a point out of it. I genuinely do, because why wouldn't we? Arsenal are a brilliant team, but we did them twice last year, home and away. We destroyed their title thing, and they get a bit rattled against Villa because I think it means something more to them. Like, more than it, we're very calm. We play the game, and we're always underdogs, and no one expects us to. Even now, we beat them twice last season. Watch the pre-match coverage from the media and stuff like that. They won't give us a chance in hell. They'll say Villa got lucky twice last season. It was a one-off season. Villa will never do it again. Blah blah blah, and then we'll go and beat them again. Or the only thing I'll say is just let the games come. Let their chips fall where they may. There's no one I'm afraid of this year, including Man City, including Arsenal. Yeah, of course we're going to lose game, but there's no one I'm going to, and I'm admitting defeat before we started the game. Where in the past, I definitely would have done that.
I don't think. Can't disagree with any of that, mate. I think you summed it up perfectly. You did mention a couple of other performance, or one certainly performance you wanted to highlight, and that's Youri Tielemans, and that combination with Amadou Onana, I think, will be absolutely fantastic across the season. So, little word on him, and then you talked about the Jules one with Pau Torres, and I think he was 100%. But another great performance as well from Ezri Konsa. I mean, we said across this week, I think Newcastle fans were talking about Anthony Gordon not necessarily getting to the pace of the game. I think Cole Palmer was a bit quiet today. Jared Bowen was a bit quiet yesterday for West Ham. But Ezri Konsa just comes in after playing in the Euros, and he's making goal line clearances at the end, and he's just doing it like it's just what I do. Like, I just don't believe this guy. He just turns up on a football pitch. I mean, is he like dare I say it, next Paul McGrath that just makes football look so easy? Maybe, I don't know if what you do. I don't think McGrath was before your time, but it just makes the game so easy. But yeah, so Youri and Ezri just fantastic.
I'll start with it. I mean, Ezri Konsa is very easily my favourite Villa player of the last 5 years since we got promoted. And you'll know this because we've been doing this for about that long now. Ezri Konsa for me is he's just the perfect centre back. I think he's brilliant. I've never had a bad word to say, and I'm so biased with it as well. Even if he does have a bad game, I've got blinkers on, mate. I'll never see it. You'll never hear me criticize or question Ezri Konsa as a footballer. I will say this though. He had a hard time against Mikel Antonio. He did not like that physicality. Mikel Antonio was really pushing him about and moving him. And I think Ezri Konsa just as a player is summed up by that last minute. He's so good at defending them. Not only did Souček not score, but Konsa didn't even have to touch the ball. It just went out for a goal kick because he just puts the right pressure on him. If the ball was shot any lower, then Konsa's getting a block on it. So Souček has to try and get it over his leg. He doesn't even have to touch the ball to defend it. He's just such a special player, man. And my favorite thing is that Ezri Konsa goes under the radar because if people really thought and clocked how good he was, he'd be playing in I genuinely believe he could play in any team in the world. I think like maybe he wouldn't start for Real Madrid, but I think there is a place for Ezri Konsa in his squad. I genuinely mean this. I'm not bullshitting. I'm not trying to like be, out there and exaggerate for effect. I'm being serious. I don't think there's a club where Ezri Konsa couldn't play, and he's just brilliant. He's my favorite defender, including Martin Larsson, including Olaf Melber, including Mings, including all these other greats that I've seen during my time. He's my favorite defender we've ever had at this club. And
only 26 as well.
26, and he's just, even at the Euros, he does us proud. Like the game he came on, he was imperious. Just, yeah, absolutely stunning. I run out of words for Ezri Konsa as well. And Yuri Tielemans, bloody hell, he had some big shoes to fill, but he looks like he's doing an all right job. Obviously, everyone's worried about losing Dougie Luiz. I'll put the question out there. Did anyone notice he wasn't there on Saturday? Were we significantly worse? Was anyone like, oh, Dougie would have been good in that situation? I called it from before the season. I said, I think Yuri's going to replace Douglas Luiz. And I think he's, if anything, he's as good, if not a little bit of an upgrade in some scenarios. And I think his defensive work goes a bit unnoticed at times. And I just think he's, I think Yuri Tielemans has got it all. If he can stay fit, if he can stay invested, if he can stay, when I mean fit, I mean like around,
Yeah. It's some players have that where you do notice they have to be really on top of their diet, really on top of their conditioning. And
McGinn said it before, didn't he?
McGinn's the same.
Like everyone else.
Yeah. He's like, if I look at a chocolate bar, I put weight on, and maybe Yuri's a little bit like that as well. But I just love the way he plays football. I just love how, even when he's winning the ball, or even when the ball's breaking to him, like from someone else winning a tackle, he's always thought before he's received the ball where he wants to go with it. So he's thought about the pass, and he can start attacks just straight away, just by a little pass or a little flick or just something. I just love the way he plays football, and he does everything in 1 and 2 touches. And there's times where he arrives on the edge of the box, and I think there's a couple of occasions yesterday where had they seen him, or had they played that layoff a little bit better, I think there's a couple of block shots that he had, and he just arrives in space just at the right time. But yeah, I really liked his performance yesterday, and we saw a glimpse of, I think, one of the games Belgium played. I think their best performance in the Euros was Tielemans and Onana in that midfield for about 60 minutes. They were just brilliant. It was when he scored, and that was a bit of a taste of things to come. And then yesterday was just excellent. The two of them were just really, really good, and they've got a good combination, because I can see them. There's obviously going to be really difficult games for them to come, and there's going to be different midfield combinations that they'll have to contend with. But it's a good mix, isn't it? Because you've got the physicality and the quality of Onana, but then you've also got the speed of thought and the passing ability of a Yuri Tielemans, and he's quick over the ground as well, like deceptively quick over the ground.
And I think he puts in enough challenges as well. I don't know how many duels he won or how many challenges he completed at the weekend. I haven't looked, but from what I remember, he was winning the ball all over the gaff. I think
on FotMob he got the highest rating on FotMob. He got 8.5. So he's 90% passing accuracy, 46 from 51 passes.
And he tries hard passes as well. They're not 5 yards sideways.
Exactly.
He plays forward passes, that's what I like about him as well.
3 chances created.
1
out of 2 successful dribbles, 1 out of 2 accurate crosses, 5 passes into the final third, 69 touches all game, 2 block shots, 100% tackles won, so that's 2 out of 2, 1 clearance, 1 headed clearance, 2 interceptions, 6 defensive actions, 5 recoveries, 5 duels won, 3, and so it's 5 out of 8 ground duels won, and he was fouled twice, and he only committed 1 foul.
Those are some stats. Like, don't let that go over your head.
And he got 1 assist, obviously, as well.
Yeah, the assist, the interceptions are massive. 2 big interceptions as well. I think he's going to be a massive player. But actually, bring me to a question I wanted to ask you. And I know that people have been discussing it in the chat and on Twitter and stuff like that. So, John McGinn. There's a lot of questions about John McGinn, and obviously, look, he's everyone's favorite Christmas turkey, and he is a Villa legend. He really is. Like, he's got that place in our history cemented, and and I love him. But is there beginning to be like a little bit of a quality gap with McGinn? Because the thing is with McGinn is when he's at his best, he's as good as anyone in his position. He does absolutely incredible things, like not just the arse time, but his range of passing, the way he drives forward, the goals he scores. Like McGinn at his best is amongst the best I've seen. But the question is, how often do you get that McGinn? Because when you don't get that, you don't get the 7 out of 10 McGinn. You get like a 5 out of 10 McGinn. I think that is, I think that's a bit of a strange one. And there are other players. You think about Morgan Ramsey and Morgan Rogers and Jacob Ramsey playing together.
Morgan Ramsey's a hell of a player.
I'm merging them into one player. When you think about the idea of them playing together instead of John McGinn sort of sitting in that camera, do you think maybe there are games where he doesn't start, not because he's not fit, but just because he's not the best option?
Possibly. Yeah, I wouldn't rule it out. Like you say, I think there's a real appetite for Rodgers and Ramsey to play together because they do really link up well. And then if you factor in Boubacar Kamara coming back to fitness, do you then see a Kamara and Onana as the base of the midfield, and then push Eurytilians a little bit further forward with a Rodgers or Ramsey? I absolutely do see that. And look, he came off after 60 minutes. Emery is not a manager who will not take off his captain. He's done that many times before. Does that mean that McGinn's not important to us? Absolutely not. There'll be certain games where the tempo that McGinn provides, the tackling ability, the harrying of players, where we'll need that John McGinn. And I think maybe sometimes he rises better to the challenges against, say, an Arsenal or against a Man City, or where he's maybe been written off a little bit, or there's someone who's been targeting him who they think he's better than him, and he goes after them and he absolutely dominates them. So I wouldn't be surprised if McGinn has a really good game on Saturday, because I'm sure he'll start on Saturday. But yeah, mate, I don't think anyone is immune from not playing. Absolutely not. Whether you'd say he is the weak link or anything, I just think it's horses for courses more. And I would hope that, injuries permitting, we wouldn't have to play players just because they're the only options that we've got. I think hopefully having the ability to be able to rotate for different games will be in it something that Unai Emery can do.
Yeah, I don't disagree. As another devil's advocate question, but I saw a lot of not criticism, but I think even on FOTMob, I haven't checked it, but I think when I did,
he got 6.9 as a rating. So
that was one of the lowest, I think, apart from Ollie Watkins. I think that was the lowest.
Yeah, him and Matty Cash got 6.9 on there. I mean, not that I pay too much attention to this sort of stuff, but yeah, he it was the right. There were the right changes to make, and obviously they paid off, because the 3 substitutions that were made on the 62nd minute were the ones who combined for the winning goal. So
100%. And I'm not for 1 second suggesting like to sell McGinn or anything crazy like that, because he's too important to our culture and to Aston Villa as a club. But I'm thinking, is there going to be a period in the next, I don't know, month, 2 months, 3 months, where you start seeing McGinn maybe starting from the bench instead of starting games? I don't know. I would love to see McGinn do well. Like, there's no one else I'd rather see be on the pitch and just playing at their absolute best, because he's sort of like, we've all got a lot of affection for him. We all love a bit of McGinn, but at the same time, I really want us to go for it this season. And I think everyone keeps talking about winning a trophy, and I think with that in mind, you can't be too sentimental when it comes to players. So it's nice to think that maybe Emery's got that in his mind. He's like, look, I just want to win, whilst keeping the squad together at the same time.
Yeah. Look, mate, it was a fantastic away day. The weather was fantastic. The atmosphere was brilliant. The result was brilliant. The performances were brilliant. So I don't think we could have asked for a much better day, all in all. Takes us into Arsenal next Saturday. And as you've said, confident. We're going to obviously do a full match preview coming up in the week, but early signs, mate. You couldn't ask for anything better than going into it off the back of a win, to be honest.
Rich, tell me, are you trading for Arsenal? Are
I'll
you?
be training, yeah, I'm training, mate.
um, yeah, man. There's no better way to go into a game than off a high like that. You know, it's a brilliant win against a really hard team in a stadium that historically we haven't done very well. I think what's better as well is we performed really well. We had a lull, and I was worried it was like, do you know, the back end of last season we just sort of went quiet for large periods of the game and kind of turned up at the end. But it wasn't really like that. Like the flow momentum of the game's always going to shift between two teams for the most part. You know, especially when there is not evenly balanced, but when there's a smaller gap in quality than there were between Villa and West Ham. So I think, you know, everyone will take a lot of confidence from that. We don't have to worry about John Duran, you know, settling back in and questions around him. As long as he's here and we know he's going to do his best, and the Villa fans will back him until, until he either goes or his future is sorted out. So I think everyone's doing well. Look, Arsenal are a absolutely sensational team. Like, they've been playing quality football for years now, and you know, we say what we want about Arteta. He's a really, really, really good manager. He learnt off the best, and yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I'm expecting or hoping to take something away from the game at Villa Park, but at the same time, it can go either way. But we beat them twice last year. I don't know why we can't do it again. There's no reason why we can't do it again. It'll be one of the hardest games we'll have this year.
Yeah,
but it's fine. We're here for it, right?
Exactly. We are here for it. So, Sam, thank you very much for joining me tonight. Great show. Always brilliant talking about the Villa after a win, and a great win it was. We'll be back later on this week with talking tactics, maybe some transfer talk, roundup shows as well. As we've said, Moreno may be on his way, Diego Carlos could be on his way, and I don't know, maybe one or two others. And we hopefully will bring one or two players in to really top off the squad. And we'll also be back with match preview for Arsenal and opposition preview as well. Hopefully get an Arsenal guest on in the week as well. So make sure you stay tuned to the channel. Make sure you smash the like button and hit the subscribe button on your way out if you haven't already. Thank you for joining us. And as always, remember, we'll follow the Villa.